Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reviews in a Rabbit Onesie, the show in which I, Dan Leith, review things in a rabbit onesie. Hello, we've made it. It's the last week of Dantober, where I've been trying to watch 31 horror movies I haven't seen before. If you want to check out movies 1 to 24, you can see them in other videos. Otherwise, strap yourself in, because I'm going to give you the highlights of the final 7. And we're on to movie number 25. 2019's Us. Now, this is the second horror feature from Jordan Peele. He, of course, directed the great movie that is 2017's Get Out, so I was expecting big things from this movie, and boy did they not deliver. It starts well with some atmospheric text about tunnels, and a flashback sequence set in the 80s. A young girl is visiting a fair on the Santa Cruz beach with her somewhat negligent parents. She wanders off, finds an odd house of mirrors just sitting by itself on the beach. She wanders in and is absolutely terrified when she meets her doppelganger. Fast forward to the future, the little girl's grown up.
Hey, I think it's vodka o'clock.
Oh yeah.
She's got her own family.
What does I got 5 on it mean? It's about drugs.
For some unknown reason, they're also going on holiday to Santa Cruz.
He's kidding, right?
Would have thought that traumatic experience would have stopped her from going back there.
He's not kidding.
Ah well. Anyway, her character is played by Lupita Nyong'o, and I have to say she is fucking unbelievable in this film.
Where were you?
Some top tier acting. The absolute terror she portrays.
Put your shoes on.
She opens up to her husband about meeting the doppelganger in the past and is worried that it's going to happen again. Maybe you shouldn't have gone to Santa Cruz. And then they realise that there's a family standing in the driveway.
Can I help you?
Which is fucking terrifying. And sure enough, the family are terrorised by their doppelgangers.
It's us.
The doppelgangers themselves are a bit of a mixed bag performance-wise. Lupita absolutely nails doing an evil version of herself. She gives such creepy smiles and has that weird shadow voice.
Eat rabbit raw. I am your doppelganger. She gave birth to a little monster.
So she's ace. The daughter in the family, she's also ace. The father, he's meh. And the son, for some reason, is wearing a mask and running about on all fours, like some sort of dog auditioning to be in Slipknot. I didn't get it. It wasn't scary. It's at this point that Jordan tries to inject humour into the script, and it truly doesn't work.
Nobody wants the boat, Dad.
You can't have characters crying with terror because their biggest fears have come true, and in the next scene have them making jokes about Home Alone. It's very jarring. It also stars Elizabeth Moss, who has a very attractive psychopathic smile. And Tim from Tim and Eric's awesome show Great Job appears.
Clever girl.
And the movie continues, starts making less and less sense. There's a scene where the Slipknot wannabe auditions for West Side Story. And then Peele steers the vehicle that was this movie clear off the road and straight into the path of nonsense and pretension. There's a really long monologue of exposition about what the fuck this movie was supposed to be about, with a lot of symbolism that's a bit too blatant to even call it symbolism.
Be careful.
I'm not sure what this movie's trying to do, because it's trying to do so many things, but it doesn't succeed in any of them. It's not scary after the first 20 minutes. It's painfully unfunny. It's just a total mess and a waste of some extraordinary talent. Lupita Nyong'o does an amazing job. It's her movie, and she drags it right to the finish line.
She was being tested.
Awesome job, Lupita. What did I learn from this movie? I learned that you can really find yourself in a house of mirrors. And I also learnt that filling the screen full of rabbits can't even win me over with a movie this messy. And that's us. That's us now. 2 out of 5 wasted opportunities. Which brings us on to movie number 26. 2019's The Lighthouse. So this is a movie from Robert Eggers, who brought us The Witch Fitch. It's about 2 lighthouse keepers that get stranded on an island and begin to lose their minds. And boy is this a journey. It stars Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, and both of them act their fucking socks off. Incredible performances. It's a very stylized film. It's shot in an aspect ratio that is almost square. It contains gorgeous sound design. Outstanding cinematography. incredible lighting. And is just a treat for all the senses. Willem Dafoe plays a stubborn old wickie.
My watch, night to morning.
He drinks too much, farts a lot, sometimes fucks a mattress. Whereas Patterson plays a new recruit with some anger issues concerning birds that occasionally likes to masturbate while thinking about mermaids. It's a surreal and gorgeous experience. A descent into madness which contains sirens, merfolk, bad omens, pissed off seagulls, tentacles, and two of the most intense and hysterical performances you will ever see in a movie ever.
We're bound, oh, we're homeward bound.
There's some amazing goading from Dafoe.
Fooled me.
There's a scene with some bedpan mishaps. A hilarious moment with Robert Pattinson drunkenly singing and dancing. And scenes of them sitting under a table drinking turpentine and laughing like madmen. It's undoubtedly an experience and a half, and definitely a more artistic entry into the horror franchise. If you even consider it a horror movie. But I find the themes of isolation pretty horrific this year, so I say it is. If I had to fault the film, I'd say it was slightly too long, and maybe the characters could have used a bit more depth.
Same old boring story, eh?
But it is a gorgeous, hypnotic, entertaining ride that you should definitely check out if you haven't seen. Well worth a watch. Good work, Eggers. What did I learn from this movie? I learned that it's bad luck to kill a seabird. And I also learned that some people break under the pressures of isolation. Good job that didn't happen to me.
If I had a Guinness, oh boy. If I had a nice, crisp, fresh Guinness. If I had a Guinness, well then I'd fuck it.
The Lighthouse. 4 out of 5 siren songs. Which brings us on to movie number 27. Fucking hands. 2019's Color Out of Space. Now this is a very vibrant and colourful adaptation of a H.P. Lovecraft story. It was directed by Richard Stanley and it stars the one and only Nicolas Cage. He's living in his old family farmhouse with his wife, his Wiccan daughter, his stoner son, a younger, more innocent, adorable son, a horse, a fine-looking dog called Sam, and a whole bunch of alpacas. So life seems to be going pretty well for them. They're sitting down for a nice meal,
Cassoulet.
eating duck,
Everybody loves duck.
arguing about alpacas,
I don't know why you bought them in the first place.
and who's gonna do the washing up.
Time for you to do the dishes.
Nick Cage overshares to his wife about his daddy issues
You're never gonna be a painter, Nathan, so you just get the fuck out of my sight, Nathan.
and amputee fetishes.
Tuck you into my carry-on luggage and enjoy you wherever I go.
Now that is sexy.
So life on the farm is good.
It is a dream.
That is until one night a meteorite lands in their back garden. And shit gets weird and colourful. I'm not going to give too much away about the film, but there's a bit where Nicolas Cage overshares to the mayor about his sex life.
I was in bed with my wife, and it was the first time that we,
Things get weird with some bloody eggs. And vegetable cutting tension. There's a hilarious scene where Nicolas Cage watches himself on the news.
Large rock.
Horrible.
And it was had some
Hideous.
He's just the gift that keeps on giving.
well, I mean, I like a bit of bourbon.
Very entertaining stuff.
The night before, I had a few drinks.
There's a space mantis. There's a scene where Nicolas Cage is singing in an operatic fashion whilst driving a car for no reason. There's a surprise shower jellyfish. There's some quite traumatic body horror. And there's an alpacalypse. There's a scene where Nick Cage loses his shit in a car. There's a lot of crazy shit in this film.
That, my friend, is straight from the mother's tip.
I really appreciated the nods to the Lovecraftian universe, Miskatonic University t-shirts, a paperback copy of the Necronomicon. It's visually hypnotizing. I don't think I could look away for the last 20 minutes.
So beautiful.
And it has an incredible score. I think whether or not you'll like this film depends on how you feel about Nicolas Cage. Personally, I love him, so his over-the-top hamminess sits fine with me.
Nothing has been fucking this place up.
Although it did take me away from some of the horror that was happening in the film, but in the most entertaining way possible.
Drake of heavy.
But I don't want to tell you anymore, other than you should watch it. Actually, I learned quite a lot from this film. I learned that meteorites smell like burnt dogs.
Like somebody lit a dog on fire.
And I also learned that milking an alpaca takes patience.
Very gentle with the boobs.
4 out of 5 cosmic cages. So then I watched a movie called After Midnight from 2019, which is not to be mistaken for a sequel for one of those Richard Linklater movies. Nope, this movie was in part a comedy, in part a very slow-moving relationship drama. There was a monster in it, but it still wasn't a horror movie. So I'm not really going to be covering that. So I move swiftly on to the next film, movie number 28. 2018's Incident in a Ghostland. Now this is a movie from the French director Pascal Laugier, who was the guy that brought us Martyrs. Fuck you for that, Pascal. If you haven't seen Martyrs, let me just tell you that that movie is a lot. Not in a fun way. Thankfully this movie is not as intense as that, although it's still no walk in the park. It's a movie about 2 girls and their French mother.
Patrick had a vague feeling.
They're moving to their aunt's old house in the middle of nowhere.
We're moving here into Aunt Clarissa's house.
Which is a weird house filled with dolls and paintings. Anyway, one of the girls, Beth, she wants to be the next H.P. Lovecraft.
Okay, what's the story about?
Her sister Vera is less impressed. And then this movie springs right into action with a horrific home invasion. And the movie is about that event and what's next in life for the characters.
I guess the question is, why write this book?
And I really can't say much more with this one. To dissect this, it would be rife with spoilers. And this is a movie best enjoyed going in cold. I can tell you it's a very well shot film. Laugier uses the John Carpenter technique of shooting a frame and leaving enough space that something might appear in it. So you're constantly on edge. And some of the performances in this film are unbelievable. Some amazing trauma-filled acting. And then there are some performances which aren't as well acted. I'm looking at you, Eve, from Tonight with Eve. She's dreadful. Without giving too much away, there's a creepy doll dream sequence. Some ghostly abuse, some broken fingers, allegories of dark as fuck fairy tales. I can't really say much more. I'd give a warning that maybe this movie would be a lot for some people. I personally find it quite horrifying, but captivating. And in the end, I think it's as clever as it is nasty. What did I learn from this movie? I learned that ice cream vans can be intimidating as fuck.
It's going to happen tonight.
And that's a vague as fuck description of Incident in a Ghostland. It's far from perfect, but it really surprised me in a good way. So it's getting the Hidden Rough Gem of the Week award. Hidden Rough Gem of the Week. 3 out of 5 bestsellers. Fuck. I think something just flew into my eye. Anyway, that brings us on to movie number 29. 1999's Bats. I mean, where do I begin with this one? It's a movie about genetically engineered killer bats. It stars Lou Diamond Phillips and Dina Meyer, who's clearly slumming it in this bat-shaped turkey. The movie opens with a douchebag couple comprised of a bratty girl and her eye-rolling boyfriend. They park up in their car and get fucked up by bats. And then you have these credits. I see what they did there. The bats was upside down. That should be a clear sign of the quality of the movie. And it was. Mind you, they had helicopters, and Graham Revell did the score, so they must have had some kind of budget.
We got a problem.
Apart from being about bats, I don't think this movie has anything original about it. Every scene and character seems to be copy and pasted from another movie.
It was a direct homage to the town being destroyed and the birds.
Right at the beginning, it has a Jaws-esque autopsy scene.
Are you saying some kind of bat did this?
Batting accident. This was no batting accident. No, actually it was. It was bats. Everyone in this film is a caricature.
What in the hell are we still doing here?
Every line is a cliche.
I tell you, I'm not gonna let him blow my town off the face of the earth without a fight.
Worst of all is the character of Jimmy. 90% of his dialogue is just awful wisecracks.
Clip their wings. Could you shoot their damn heads off and don't miss?
It's pretty painful. It's full of awful 90s filmmaking. Lots of shots of this terrible bat vision where the screen is warped in such an awful 90s way. And there's lots of adorably terrible puppetry of bats. Unfortunately, the movie peaks about half an hour in. There's a mass bat attack on the town. Lots of people running, screaming, shooting bats out of the sky, shooting the bats from under a car. Tina Meyer is holed up in a cinema kiosk, where of course they're showing Nosferatu. Actually, at this point, the movie was so batshit crazy, pun intended, that it was almost so bad it was good.
Perfect killing machine.
But unfortunately, after this, it becomes such a tedious slog. I'm not even sure if the biggest champions of shit cinema could tolerate it. Fucking bats. I mean, I was definitely rooting for the bats in the end. What did I learn from this movie? I learned that life is unpredictable. I mean, take Bob Gunton of the Shawshank Redemption fame.
They're very, special.
I mean, in 1995, he was probably sitting at the Oscars, and then just 4 years later, he's in this movie. Just goes to show you that you never know where you're going to end up. One year you could be singing on the West End, being fondled by a Lowe's Vicky Michelle, and the next year you could be sitting in a dark room, wearing a rabbit onesie and talking about the movie Bats. The horrors of the real world. Oh, and I also learned that Lou Diamond Phillips does an excellent bat impression.
You know, they don't have to do anything. They just sit there.
And that's Bats. 1 out of 5 steaming piles of guano. Which brings us on to our next film, movie number 30, Groping Six Boobs. 1987's Blood Rage, aka Slasher. It's another movie with multiple titles. It's almost like both titles were shit and no one liked either. But anyway, this is a movie about a set of twins. Their names are Todd and Terry. One's good, one's evil. And this movie opens with a banging soundtrack. There's lots of people at a drive-in movie theatre. Lots of couples making out. But in one car, we see an older woman making out with a younger man, while her 2 sons, the twins, are asleep in the back. Wait, are they sleeping with a gun?
Don't worry about it.
She's clearly a shit mother.
Mom said it again.
Anyway, the lads wake up and sneak off to have a wee adventure. So Terry finds an axe. They start perving on a naked couple in a car. Then when he's caught out, Terry just fucks this guy up with an axe. This naked woman just runs away into the night.
It's a full moon.
Then Terry just immediately frames his brother Todd, who's clearly gone into some sort of catatonic shock from all this impromptu axing. I mean, this is one way to start a film. So we skip forward 10 years in time. Todd, the good twin, who has been institutionalized, has suddenly remembered the actual events that took place and the fact that he's innocent.
Get me out of here! I never killed anybody!
But his mum doesn't believe him because she's a shit mum.
I considered the setback.
There's some sort of lazy voiceover in which the doctor says that she believes Todd is innocent and that Terry could snap at any given moment. So then we cut back to the home life of Terry and his mum. I guess someone said something funny.
Told me that one.
And it seems that Terry is indeed triggered when Mum gets engaged to a douchebag called Brad.
We're gonna tie the knot.
What a catch. And then in the next 10 minutes, madness and bloodshed ensues.
My psychotic brother just escaped.
Brad gets his beer confiscated from him. A trank gun wielding stoner gets a machete through the gut. And Todd's doctor gets cut in half. She's not happy. Whilst in the meantime, the mum's just pigging out in the fridge. Because she's a shit mom. The majority of the rest of the film is just camp, gory 80s nonsense. It seems to have a theme of all the men in the film trying to molest women who are clearly in distress.
What are you doing?
I'm just trying to calm you down a little bit.
Todd and Terry are actually played by the same actor. He actually does a pretty good job in differentiating the characters.
It's not funny, man. That's not funny. And don't let anybody in. Not anybody.
Even though I'm not sure how realistic either of them are. There's a hilarious scene where Todd's trying to put his doctor's body back together. What's your plan here, man? It's not going to bring her back to life. Maybe he just likes things neat.
Why?
There's a scene with a negligee and a severed head at the door.
Here I am.
All of the horror action is intercut with the mother being on the telephone for way too long.
Oh, no, that's impossible.
She's just being hysterical.
This is very important.
And seems to get nowhere.
Please don't leave me alone here.
Shit mom. Then a guy made mostly of denim gets forked. Then his corpse gets puppeted.
Why are you doing this?
I'm not sure who decided that Terry's catchphrase should be, "It's not cranberry sauce," but that's a thing.
It's not cranberry sauce. That is not cranberry sauce. It's not cranberry sauce.
And eventually the mother gets off the phone. Apparently she was just trying to reach Brad, who literally lives beside her. But I don't think Brad's gonna be any help.
I'm calling you, you wanted to answer the phone.
I don't think he could lend a hand. He seems stumped. He's just not brainy enough. I was wrong. Also, this actor is clearly breathing and blinking throughout the scene, but that's the sort of quality and caliber this movie has to offer. Essentially, it's really a film about a terrible mother, but with good gore. They should have called the film Shit Mom. Also, for some unknown reason, her hair is infuriating. What did I learn from this movie? I learned that housework seems a lot more enjoyable when you're constantly drinking red wine. And I also learned that sex on a diving board looks really uncomfortable.
You stop that.
And that's Blood Rage, aka Slasher. 2 out of 5 evil twins. Oh, I think I'm coming down with something. Sorry about that. And that brings us to our final movie for Dantober 2020. That's right, it's movie number 31. 2020's Host. I mean, considering the year it's been and the state of the world right now, how could I not finish with this movie? Because not only is this movie set during the coronavirus pandemic, but it also solely takes place on Zoom.
Hi guys. Hey guys.
Yes, it's about a bunch of friends who all have a Zoom meeting.
Hello. Hi Teddy.
Well, it's an online socially distanced seance of sorts.
There's no reason why Spirit can't communicate over the internet.
And there's some recognisable and believable Zoom banter going on. Everyone's getting the booze in them.
Up to us.
Using filters.
Let's do a shot.
And dicking around with virtual backgrounds. So after catching up for a bit, the friends invite a medium called Salin to the room.
I've never done this over Zoom.
And the seance gets underway.
Visualise us sitting in a circle.
However, due to one of them dicking about too much, they accidentally make contact with something sinister.
I think there's something here.
I mean, I didn't think that anything could be as horrifying as having to be in a Zoom meeting.
Is there anyone there?
I was wrong. Because this movie scared the shit out of me. It all starts with weird noises.
What was that?
Glasses breaking. Chairs being dragged. And then all hell breaks loose. It's a rare example of a horror movie getting stronger as it goes on, and the scares at the end are truly terrifying. For the most part, the cast are very good and very believable. Although there are a few moments that seem forced.
Nothing's gonna happen.
But for the most part, it's all forgivable. I guess it suffers from the normal things found footage films suffer from. People using cameras for too long, getting up to some illogical actions. But it's genuinely frightening enough that none of that matters. It's only 58 minutes long. You should definitely give it a watch. I felt horror right from the get-go, just looking at the Zoom interface. Too many awful Zoom calls. It also accurately depicts the horror of everyone talking at once on Zoom. What did I learn from this movie? I learned that some people don't know how to take a screenshot.
Get in. 3, 2, 1.
Why are you using a Polaroid? I learned that selfie sticks aren't as useless as I first thought. And I also learned that some things are scarier than the coronavirus.
Did you say that?
And that's Host. It may not be the best movie I've watched this Dantober, but it's certainly the scariest. 4 out of 5 virtual backgrounds. And that's Dantober 2020 over and done with. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please like, share, subscribe. Click on the Otter. I hope you enjoyed this crazy journey with me. I'll be back at some point reviewing more shit movies. In the meantime, stay safe, stay sane, and happy Halloween, everyone. Especially you, Brendan Quinn. Finn.